My parents called me uneducated trash and kicked me out, "Get out, you lowlife." Dad yelled. They didn't know I earned $45 million. So I said, "Okay, fine," and didn't argue at all. Next day moved to my Florida beach house. 3 weeks later. My name is Camille Jordan. I'm 23, and I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I grew up in a two-bedroom apartment above my aunt's hair salon, surrounded by fabrics, mannequins, and women talking about how clothes made them feel seen. By the time I was 10, I was cutting old jeans into skirts and sketching outfits in the margins of my math homework. Fashion wasn't just something I loved, it was how I made sense of the world. While other kids dreamed about being doctors or lawyers, I imagined designing red carpet dresses that would make people stop and stare. My mum thought it was cute when I was little, but cute doesn't pay rent. And the moment I told her I wanted to drop out of college to start my own label, she didn't just shut me down, she crushed me. She didn't yell at first, she laughed. A sharp, disbelieving laugh that felt colder than anything she could have shouted. She looked at me like I was some spoiled teenager chasing delusions instead of a young woman with a vision. Then came the insults. She called me irresponsible, said I was throwing my life away for some silly little dream. Her voice got sharper, her words quicker. She said I was selfish, that I didn't understand what sacrifice meant, that I was embarrassing her. She brought up my father, who left when I was 5, said I was just like him. Unreliable, unpredictable, always chasing something that didn't exist. That one stung more than I admitted. I sat at the kitchen table, hands folded in my lap, while she paced and pointed and painted my future with failure. Every time I tried to speak, she talked over me. Every time I tried to explain, she dismissed me. I wasn't her daughter in that moment. I was a mistake she couldn't control. She told me I'd be back within a year, broke and begging, that I'd end up working in retail, folding clothes that other people designed. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just sat there and felt the ground shift under me. Everything she said rang with the kind of certainty only someone who's already decided you're nothing can speak with. But I knew something she didn't. I knew the fire inside me didn't come from school or approval or tradition. It came from the same place as every seamstress, every dreamer, every girl who's ever been told she's not enough, finds her spark. My hands had made things that made people feel beautiful. My ideas had turned into real clothes worn by real women. That wasn't fantasy. That was the purpose. Still hearing my own mother tell me I was a failure before I'd even begun to cut deeper than I expected. The woman who raised me to believe in hard work didn't believe in my work at all. She loved security. I chose risk. She followed the rules. I wanted to reinvent them. She wanted a daughter who fit the mold. I was born to break it. So I packed my things. Just a suitcase, my sewing machine, and a heart full of stitches no one could see. I didn't hug her goodbye. I didn't say thank you. I just walked out knowing I was choosing the harder path. But it was mine. And that night, in a rented room in Brooklyn with peeling walls and thin blankets, I whispered the only promise that mattered. I'll show her. I'll show them all. Brooklyn didn't welcome me with open arms. It met me with cold radiators, creaky floors, and the kind of quiet that makes you question every decision you've ever made. I moved into a room so small I had to choose between walking space and my sewing table, and of course the table won. I worked the morning shift at a cafe on Flatbush Avenue where the regulars didn't bother learning my name. I poured lattes, mopped floors, and smiled through gritted teeth. Then I'd come home, change into sweatpants, and start designing until my eyes burned. The sewing machine I brought from Chicago was the only thing that felt familiar. It clunked and jammed more than it worked. But it was mine. It reminded me I was still building something. At first, no one believed in what I was doing. Not my co-workers, not my neighbors, Not even the local print shop that messed up my labels twice and never apologized. I handed out flyers at subway stations, hoping someone would scan the QR code on the back. Most didn't. Some laughed. One woman told me to give it up before I wasted the best years of my life. I smiled and nodded, but her words stayed with me longer than I'd like to admit. My first online sale came 3 weeks later. A wrap dress in royal blue with hand-stitched details that took me 2 nights to finish. I shipped it with a handwritten thank you note and checked my email every hour, waiting for feedback that never came. 2 weeks passed. Then came the email the customer wanted a refund. She said the dress didn't fit and the fabric looked cheap. No review, no photos, just a full return and a sharp little line at the end that read, "This isn't ready for real customers." I cried. Not the soft, cinematic kind of crying, but the messy, gut-deep kind. I cried into a half-eaten dinner sitting on the floor next to a pile of rejected sketches. I cried because I was tired, because I was alone, because maybe everyone had been right. But when the tears dried, I got up. I took apart that dress, studied every seam and remade it. Not for her. For me. That became my rhythm. Work. Sew. Fail. Adjust. Repeat. I taught myself how to draft better patterns by watching free YouTube tutorials. I messaged old high school classmates who studied business to ask how to price my work. Some answered, most didn't. I joined online forums where other young designers vented, encouraged, and reminded each other that grit was currency when cash was low. There were nights I went to bed hungry so I could afford new thread. Times when my fingers bled from pinpricks, and I still kept going. I wasn't chasing fame. I wasn't hoping to be the next big thing. I just wanted to prove that someone like me, a girl without a degree or connections, could make something beautiful with her own 2 hands. The city didn't change for me, but slowly I changed inside it. My first repeat customer messaged me about a month in. She said she wore my blazer to a job interview and felt like a boss. That message saved me more than she'll ever know. It reminded me that my work could reach people, even if just one at a time. And in a world that often shouted I wasn't enough. That whisper of impact kept me moving. I still had nothing. A safety net. No cheerleaders. No guarantees. But I had a sewing machine. A dream. And a fire in my chest that wouldn't go out. And that was enough to keep going, even when everything around me said stop. It happened on a Tuesday. I had just finished a double shift at the cafe and was too tired to eat, so I flopped onto my bed phone in hand, scrolling through notifications without thinking. That's when I saw it, a message request on Instagram from a verified account I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, but something made me tap. The profile picture loaded. A stylist. Not just any stylist. Beyoncé's stylist. I blinked 3 times before I let myself read the message. It was short, straight to the point. They had seen one of my blazer designs floating around and wanted to know if I did custom work. My heart stopped. Then it slammed back to life so hard I could hear it in my ears. I sat up, fingers shaking, rereading the words like they might change. I clicked through their page. Real clients, real work, real verified checkmark. This wasn't a scam. This was real. I replied as calmly as I could, trying not to sound like a fangirl. I offered to send a digital sketch and some fabric options by morning. They said yes. I didn't sleep at all that night. I stayed up designing like my life depended on it. By noon the next day, I had emailed over 3 design mock-ups, color options, and fabric swatches. 48 hours later, they picked one. I overnighted the sample to a studio in Los Angeles with a handwritten note and a prayer. 3 days passed. Then 5. No word. I tried to stay focused, filling orders and cleaning my apartment, but the waiting buzzed under my skin. And then on the sixth day, my phone exploded. Tags, mentions, DMs, photos of the stylist holding my blazer. A caption that read something like, "Obsessed with this up-and-coming designer from Brooklyn." My jaw dropped. I screamed into a pillow. That post changed everything. In a matter of hours, my following tripled, my inbox overflowed, and for the first time in months, I felt seen. Not just by a celebrity, but by the world. The morning after the post went live, I woke up to over 200 new emails. Most were orders, some were press inquiries. A few were messages from stylists and boutiques asking if I offered wholesale pricing. I stared at my screen, still in my pajamas, heart pounding. I had dreamed of this moment. I just never expected it to come all at once. Within 48 hours, I sold out of everything I had in stock. My little one-bedroom became a makeshift studio storage unit and shipping center all at once. I called a friend from the cafe, begged her to come help me cut fabric and pack boxes. Then I posted a job listing for a part-time assistant. By the weekend, I had 2 girls coming in every day, both fashion students who knew how to hustle and didn't flinch at long hours or paper cuts. We worked 12-hour days fueled by coffee music and adrenaline. The orders didn't stop. Neither did the pressure. I was terrified of messing up, of disappointing new customers, of being a one-hit wonder. But I didn't tell my mum. I hadn't spoken to her since I left. And for some reason, I wasn't ready for her to know. This win felt too new, too fragile, like saying it out loud would make it disappear. Still, something in me had shifted. I started to stand differently. I looked people in the eye. I stopped apologizing before explaining my work. I began to believe, really believe, that maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe this wasn't a phase. Maybe I could actually build a life doing the thing I loved. It was exhausting. Every night I fell asleep with fabric in my hair and a to-do list buzzing in my mind. But it was the kind of tired that felt earned. I was overwhelmed. I was behind. I was thriving. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. It was just after 2 in the morning when my phone lit up. I almost didn't answer. The number wasn't saved, and I was bone tired from a full day of packing rush orders. But something told me to pick up. The voice on the other end was shaky. Soft, too familiar to mistake. It was my mother. I sat upright before she even said my name. She was crying, not the dramatic kind I remembered, but broken quiet, like the air had been knocked out of her. She said she lost her job 3 months ago. Her landlord gave final notice last week, that she had nowhere else to go. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't spoken to her since the day I left, since the day she called me selfish and ungrateful. Now her voice sounded like it had shrunk. She wasn't angry anymore. She was afraid. She said she needed help, just a little. Just until she figured things out. I could hear the hesitation between her words, the shame clinging to every breath. I sat there in silence, holding the phone to my ear like it was burning my skin. Her voice kept breaking. She asked if I was still in New York, said she missed me, said she never meant to push me away. But I remembered everything, every word, every look, the way she turned her back when I needed her most. And yet some part of me still wanted to help, still wanted her to say what I needed to hear all those months ago, that she was wrong, that she believed in me. But she didn't say those things. She just cried. And I listened, torn between the girl who wanted her mother's love and the woman who had built a life without it. When the call ended, I sat in the dark phone still in hand, heart aching in a way I thought I had outgrown. She came to the city 3 days later, said she didn't want to stay long, just needed somewhere to figure things out. I met her in the lobby of my building. watching her take in the marble floors and tall glass walls, like she was walking through a place she didn't believe could exist. She looked tired, not just physically. Her shoulders drooped in a way I had never seen before. As we rode the elevator, she didn't mention the last time we spoke. She just said the apartment was nice and that she was proud I had made something for myself. Then she added almost like a joke that she thought I was just playing dress-up all those years. I didn't laugh. I just looked at her, waiting for the rest. The apology, the ownership. But it never came. She talked about how hard life had been lately, how people weren't hiring older workers, how everything seemed to fall apart so fast. She never once said she was sorry for the names, the yelling, the way she shut me down. I nodded, listening, but my chest felt tight. Not from anger, from clarity. I realized then that she hadn't changed. She was still the woman who needed to be right, even when she was desperate. Still the mother who only reached out when she had nowhere else to go. And still couldn't say the words I had waited my whole life to hear. I remembered sitting at that kitchen table, her voice sharp, calling me a disappointment. I remembered walking out the door with no goodbye. And I remembered every late-night sewing, every tear I'd swallowed alone. Her showing up now didn't undo any of that. It only confirmed what I was finally ready to admit. Her love had always come with strings, and this time I wasn't going to be the one tangled in them. I spent the next morning staring at a blank email draft. Every sentence I typed felt too soft or too sharp. I wasn't writing to get revenge. I wasn't writing to be cruel. I just wanted to be understood, even if the person reading wouldn't let herself see the truth. It took 3 cups of coffee and 1 long walk around the block before I finally sat down and let the words come without editing. I started with the basics. I told her I hoped she was safe. I was sorry for the pain she was going through. I meant it. I didn't wish suffering on anyone, not even her. But I also didn't owe her the comfort of my presence. Then I wrote what I had never been able to say aloud. I said I remembered everything, every dismissal, every insult, every time she looked at me like I was foolish for daring to dream. I told her I didn't need her to apologize for all of it. I just needed her to understand that those moments shaped me. And I had learned to stand alone because I had to. I told her I forgave her. Not because she asked for it, not because she deserved it, but because I refused to carry bitterness into the future I had built. Forgiveness was mine to give, but access wasn't guaranteed. And right now I needed space more than I needed reconciliation. I explained that peace didn't come easily to me, that I fought for every inch of calm in my life, that I earned it through long nights, self-doubt, and silence. And letting someone back in who once called my dreams worthless would only shake the ground I had finally made solid. I ended the email with honesty. I said I wished her healing. I truly did. But I wouldn't compromise the life I had worked so hard to create, not even for her. I hit send before I could second-guess it. There was no dramatic music, no sense of victory, just a quiet steadiness, a knowing that this too was growth. For so long I had believed setting boundaries was cruel, that saying no to family made me heartless. But I was learning that saying no could be the most loving thing I did for myself. It didn't mean I was shutting the door forever. It just meant I finally understood who needed to be on the other side of it. Later that evening, I lit a candle, sat by my window, and watched the city move below. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just exhaled. And in that breath, I felt free. Free from guilt. Free from trying to earn what should have been given. Free from needing to be anything other than who I already was. The magazine hit stands on a Thursday. I didn't expect it to feel like much, but when I saw my face on that glossy cover, something inside me stilled. There I was, standing barefoot on the rooftop of my building, holding a pair of gold tailoring shears, fabric draped over my shoulder, light spilling in from the setting sun. The headline read, "From Dropout to Designer: How Camille Jordan Built an Empire with Needle and Nerve." Inside the article didn't exaggerate, it told the truth. About the nights I slept on the floor next to shipping boxes, about the rejections, the one-room studio, the orders I nearly couldn't fulfill. But it also spoke of resilience, of learning from nothing, of refusing to quit even when quitting felt easier. They quoted a line I had said during the interview. "I built this with thread." Yes, but more than that, I built it with silence. The silence of not being believed. The silence after every slammed door. It wasn't just fashion, it was survival turned into art. And that story, printed in black and white, felt like proof, not just for the world, but for me. For the girl who once thought being overlooked meant she wasn't worthy. That day, I held the magazine in my hands, smiled quietly, and whispered to no one in particular, "You made it." 2 days after the magazine came out, my cousin sent me a screenshot. It was from a family group chat I hadn't been part of in years. My mum had posted the cover photo with a short message underneath. She said I was being dramatic. I always liked attention, that I could have just called if I wanted to be seen. I stared at the screen for a long time. There was no praise, no pride, just the same familiar tone of dismissal wrapped in gossip and group texts. One of my aunts responded with a heart emoji. Another said she was surprised I had turned out this put together. I didn't respond. I didn't even flinch, because by then I knew. Some people won't clap for you even when the world does, not because you're wrong, but because your growth forces them to face the smallness of their own beliefs. That message thread didn't hurt me. It freed me. I had spent so long chasing a version of validation they were never going to give, and now I don't need it. I had my own voice, my own platform, and finally the peace of knowing my worth had never belonged to their approval. The letter came in a cream-coloured envelope with no return address, but her handwriting was unmistakable. It was the same script that used to sign my permission slips and write grocery lists on the fridge. Careful, neat, always slightly larger than necessary. I opened it slowly, already knowing it wouldn't say what I needed it to. She wrote that they were sorry, that they didn't understand what I was trying to do back then, that they were scared for me, scared of what people would say, scared I'd ruin my life. She said they acted out of fear, not cruelty. That family should stick together. Maybe it was time we started over. Nowhere in those pages did she mention the words she used. The yelling, the silence, the shame. It was an apology by omission, vague and safe, like rewriting history with softer ink. She asked for a second chance, said she missed me, missed us, and hoped we could rebuild. And at the very end, she wrote a single line that made everything else clear. "We'd love to come see the new house." I read it twice, then once more, letting the weight of it settle. They didn't want me. They wanted the version of me the world now clapped for. They wanted the view, the address, the evidence that the girl they had dismissed had built something worth standing next to. It wasn't about connection. It was about appearance. I folded the letter neatly and placed it back in the envelope. No anger, no heartbreak, just understanding. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some doors stay shut because the silence behind them is finally peaceful. And I had no space left for visitors who only arrived after the applause. I wrote the email slowly with intention. No caps lock, no exclamation marks, just words that felt steady in my hands. I thanked her for the letter, for reaching out, for finally saying something. I told her I forgave her. Not out of obligation, not because she asked, but because I had long ago decided to stop carrying weight that wasn't mine. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting. I remember everything. The names, the looks, the silence. I remember the nights I needed love and got judgment. The days I worked through tears wishing anyone believed in me. And I remember learning how to hold myself together when the world around me wouldn't. I explained that this life I have now didn't fall into my lap. I built it stitch by stitch through grit and grace, and the kind of loneliness that doesn't show on Instagram. And because of that, I protect it. I choose peace now. I choose boundaries. I choose to love from a distance if love is still what we call this. I told her I hoped she found her footing, that I wished her no harm, that healing is possible even from far apart. But I would not be opening my doors. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because what I've built is sacred, and I no longer hand out access to those who once shut me out. That afternoon I stood in my new studio sun, spilling through tall windows, fabric rolls stacked high like towers of quiet triumph. My team was gone for the day. The machines were silent. And in that stillness I felt full. Not from noise, not from praise, but from the simple knowing that I made it. Not for revenge, not for applause, just for me. And that was enough.